Hello everybody. Welcome to another session. Today I'm going to talk about jhana, and it's one of my favorite topics. And I'm going to cover from A to Z all the way and beyond jhana. Okay, so I know that there are many description and definition of jhana out there, depending on who teaching it, and I don't want to make any comparison or any comments about differences. I just want to focus on my experience and how I reconcile with the suttas, right? Um, so to me, um, jhana is not something that is outside of us. It's not something that we need to achieve. It's very much our muscles. It's very much part of us. It's just that we don't experience them. It's like there's a cloud, there's a veil, and we call that hindrances, right? Um, that's distract our attention and awareness from tapping into. Um, and I also well imagine um, the forest, right? There's many different how to call it way of coming into the center of the forest with the jewel and the treasure within. But we gotta fight. No, we gotta have tools in order um, to find our way among the thickets. And I'm going to give as much tools today as I can. Um, okay, so one of the notes I want to stress is experiencing jhana is not the same as attaining jhana. It's like if we attend class school just occasionally, it doesn't mean we graduate that year. We have to go the whole year. We have to learn everything that year. It's the same as jhana, right? I think everybody who are meditators or who are not meditators have experienced jhana, right? And once you experience jhana, it can be addictive and you want it back. But in order to go back into it at our will at any time we want, that is called attaining, right? That if our default um, is that we can tap into it at our will, then I would call that attaining, right? We've attained. And you can attain and you can't skip, right? You can't, well, the Buddha did skip, right? He did skip Rupa jhana. He goes straight to Arupa jhana. But in doing that, he can't finish the path, right? So I try to find why he couldn't finish. And I can only find a little description in the Abhidharma saying that in order to finish the path, you have to go back to jhana one, Rupa jhana, and then go all the way. Then you can finish. But if you skip all that 1 to 4 and go straight like a lot of the yogi does, which is what the Buddhas did, right? His master probably did too. Right. Okay. So what's jhana? Jhana is such beautiful state of mind to experience, right? It's the reason why I say everybody experience it because it's the happiness, right? Everybody experience happiness, everybody experience joy, everybody experience contentment. Um, but the fourth one is a bit special, right? Um, so in terms of the path from A to Z, um, getting work up and getting to experience and experiencing first jhana a lot, that part of the path is long and hard, right? It's imagine it's like me learning to swim, right? I don't know how to swim at all, right? So learning to swim for me is really hard, right? And I have to I have to swim and drinking a lot of water and get down and nearly drown and all that for the whole 6 months, 3 times a day, right? To get to the point where I can stay afloat and baby step swimming, right? So, but once you do that, it's nice and it's easy. And then learning different style is easy, right? Jhana is the same. The first, and I'm talking about the first 10 to 20 years of meditating is hard. And it's because we don't have the muscles yet. We haven't get into sync yet. We haven't known ourselves yet, right? So the first 20 years is about learning all of that, about finding tools that work for us and start cutting into that forest. Um, but in that 20 years, everybody, I bet you, everybody experienced jhana, right? Um, I accidentally fall into Rupa Jhana. I don't know about it until later on when I experience it again. Um, so, okay. In the sutta, the Buddha only taught 4 jhana, right? He taught 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next 4, he don't call it jhana. He called it immaterial attainment, right? And then Ayya come along and kind of classified it all together, 1 to 8, right? So the first 4, she called it rupa jhana, and the last 4 is arupa jhana. Rupa mean form, right? Meaning uh, the first 2, right, especially the first one, we can still hear, we can still sense the body, all the senses is still open, right? And then it started to close. The second one, it's kind of senses it's kind of in the background, and but the jhana experience is more in the foreground. And as further we go in, the senses hardly sense, right? But rupa, the light that we see, is also rupa, right? So rupa can range from the senses to just light, right? So so that is what rupa jhana, right? So as long as you see light, fine, or your body, then you are in rupa jhana. Now, arupa jhana is totally different, right? That's why I can reconcile with Ajahn Brahm. I think his description is more like arupa jhana. Okay, so the how you know that you're in jhana is the 5 factors, right? Well, I'm just talking about the classic definition. So it's the absence of hindrance, and it's the absence of the negative mental state, and the presence of three things: the vichaka, vitara, the directed attention, and the sustained attention, and the feeling, the joy, and depends on which jhana you're in. So to me, the first jhana is about clearing the energy, right? Because there is a very distinct energy movement from the base of your spine up to the crown, and then it kind of shower down to your arm, and it kind of give you the shiver, right? It's a very nice feeling. And that movement of the energy can be gentle or can be like very strong, right? One moment you're slouching and tired, but once it moves, it totally bolt your whole body up, right? Uh, Now, this energy is very different to Kundalini, right? Kundalini is hot, and it's also start from the base of your spine. And Kundalini also travel up the spine, go up to your crown, but it circle back. It have this circular motion. And the more it cycle, the harder you get, right? You basically like, and you do see basically burning fire, right? It's like hot, 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 and you just can't stand it. That's Kundalini. But jhana, first jhana energy is cool. It's very cool, right? If I have a color to it, would be a cool blue. Right? So it goes up your spine, and it gives you the cool. It doesn't circle. It's kind of showering, and it gives you all the goosebumps. It's almost like orgasm kind of thing. But this joy is very crude. It's raw because it's disturbed. It's nice, but it still disturb your mind, right? Uh, but you have to go through it because it's the clearing, right? It's the clearing of the energy. Because the second jhana, the Buddha described it as, he say, imagine a lake and all the water coming from all different direction and fill the lake up and overflow, right? So that clearing of all the rivers and all the creeks is the first jhana, the clearing. And then the second is when the fountain, our inner fountain, fill up and overflow, right? So the second jhana feel happy, right? I think it's the best jhana, really. It's happiness, it's bubbly, it's joy. And also this is the first time we see light, right? I wouldn't describe light as a criteria for jhana because many different might not see light, they just feel. But to me, it's always accompanied, the happiness always accompanied with some kind of light. Sometimes it's very bright light, sometimes it's like the moon lit light. It's just kind of light up. And you attain second jhana if it kind of settle in your heart. And during the day, you can tap into that warmth and you can feel the glow and the happiness again. It's like in, out, in, out. It's like you have a constant source of inner happiness at your fingertip, right? And you can go in and out at your pleasure, right? then you know you've attained second jhana. um, if you experience the jhana and you can't go back and you can't tap into it, that means there's still work to go, right? There's still work. It hasn't become a default yet. And then at some stage, okay, so I'm going to explain now um, how to go from one jhana to the next. So jhana is like a rainbow, right? It's not distinct black and white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first four we can, because the sense of self, that awareness is quite strong. So then it kind of have to do more efforts, right? So you see, imagine jhana is like a rainbow. In between, while you experience first jhana, there is a little tinge of second jhana in it. While you experience second jhana, there's a tinge of third jhana in it. It's a matter of where to find it, right? I wouldn't worry so much about it because I would just let the nature of the process happen by itself, because the Buddha said jhana is like food, right? So if we lack a certain food, we really need to have a lot of it, right? And then once the mind have a lot of it, it's naturally step back and don't want it anymore, right? So it's like if you experience this thrilling goosebump every time you sit, you kind of get sick of it, right? Imagine you experience that every day, every session for 2, 3 years. Your mind was like, you know what I mean? You just, at that point, you naturally just sit back and look at it, right? So that means now you're ready for the second, right? Yeah, so just let the process naturally unfold instead of taking too much control and say, okay, I finished, let's get on with it. Where's the second one? So jhana is very, how to call it, nutritious food. If you think about how we've been conditioned to have junk foods, right? Imagine we've been taught to just have hamburgers and chips and lollies and ice cream, right? It's very unhealthy. It's not good for the mind. It doesn't sharpen the mind. It doesn't make the mind strong, right? But jhana it's like, for the first time, somebody told us, okay, you got to eat, that pyramid. You got to eat more of fruit and veg, more nutritious protein, and all that. So that your body have the nutrients to develop the muscles so that you can work. So the mind is the same. It needs this beautiful happiness to make it refresh, to make it strong, to make it happy, right? So another beautiful thing about jhana is, and I only found this out, the strategy the Buddha used is, okay, one of the characteristics of the universe is non-self, right? The other one is impermanent and dukkha. So, and then people try to focus too much on the self, right? They try to cut all the senses. They try to deny the self. They try to really punish, right? It's really unhealthy, right? They do all this sort of thing which borderline psychotic. It's like really unhealthy. But the Buddha didn't say that, right? In he the strategy of the jhana is to make the self nice and healthy, happy, right? And blissful. Once you're happy and blissful, you don't think about yourself, right? And you don't think about yourself, and so your that boundary of yourself expanded, right? The more you expand, the less of you is there, right? That's why we practice metta, right? Metta is also about expanding. The four viharas is about expanding. The four viharas characteristic is infinite, boundless, right? The same thing. It feed the self with this beautiful quality, and the self just expand. The heart expand, right? So, um, so we're talking about the second jhana, right? And within the second jhana, after you after you experience any jhana, the how to call it, the residual or the tail end of it is the next one. So the tail end of happiness is this kind of calming contentment, right? The mind kind of calm down a bit, but the happiness is still there, but there is a calmness to it. So it feels like contentment. You're not floating, you're more like settled, right? Another description is like, imagine you're at Christmas dinner, right? And your mama cook all this your favorite food, and so you pick out, you have this full tummy, right? And you're so sated. That's like third jhana. That's contentment. That feeling of heavy, right? But beautiful heavy. Mm. um, and then you just sit with it. You just enjoy it, right? Okay, so another tip or another tools uh, is, I taught this a lot, but some people have a problem of the ability to absorb, right? The ability to find a small pleasure and absorb into it. And when you absorb into it, it becomes big. Now, I thought of this, and then I thought, how can I find way of for that people can experience it this more. So when you absorb into the feeling, pay attention, where is your awareness? It's nowhere. When we aware, right? When we close our eyes, we still have that awareness, or that, that eye, that mind eye, that look, right? That look in front, or in front there. But when you feel, you don't look. When you absorb into the feeling, you don't look, right? There is no awareness of the front. There's more, there is no looking at anywhere, not expanding or not in the peripheral. It's all the focus is here, all the focus is in the heart feeling. So so the ability to progress, or to absorb into jhana is that, right? To pinpoint that little feeling of joy or contentment, and lose your awareness, or your observer, or your watching, and just go into the feeling. Uh, so that is another good technique that you can try. So the third jhana is more contentment, right? Now, the fourth one is very special. The fourth one is you might sitting there. Oh, there's another thing is once you have a group of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you don't have to always go to 1, 2, 3, right? Um, the the ability to just go straight to where you left off is your memory. And your memory, how strong your memory is how many times you experience that state, right? So the state that you experience, remember, okay? Remember all aspects, everything about it. The more you remember, the more you're able to go back straight to it instead of, working it up. So you might be in this beautiful, light, calm state. And then all of a sudden, your peripheral or your awareness have this kind of sensation where it gathers, right? It gathers down to a point. And your awareness now is so sharp, like so sharp. You felt like you're an eagle right up top, and you're able to like look down and see the mouse right down underground, right? That's how sharp the fourth jhana is. And you can only see that point. You don't see everything around it anymore, right? So that's exactly what samadhi is, right? Samadhi, the Vietnamese or the Chinese, we defined it as coming to a point. It's not even stillness. It's definitely not concentration. So that ability, so the fourth jhana is when it comes down to a point and it stays, right? You got no problem anymore about direct attention or sustained attention. It's automatic. It's so easy because it's so sharp, right? And the mind has been fed, the mind's been happy, and now it's come to a point. This is where you put it to work, right? Because but you can't just put it to work the first time it gathers, right? It's like every experience. The first few times is about studying. It's about getting used to it, about how am I going to use this, right? Okay, so now is the point. Yes, you can stay at fourth jhana, right? You can stay at this one pointedness and develop everything, right? You finish the job, enlightenment, psychic powers, all the thing, you can do it here in the fourth, right? Now, sometimes just karma just roll along, right? Roll along. It's not like you have a control. Your mind just progress, right? Right? It just stay in fourth jhana for a little bit, and then you move on, right? The mind just ready for the next. Now, from fifth to eighth is totally different. The pattern is still kind of the same, but it's totally different experience. Now you can call your experiences out of the world, out of this world. Like, I don't think, maybe people that use drugs. I don't know. I don't use drugs. I don't know how they feel, but their expression on the face is pretty much how you would feel, right? For example, the fifth jhana is space. It's called infinite space. It's not like, here's another thing. It's not like you go up into space. It's not like all of a sudden you find yourself up in space. Yeah, it's not like that. Space means your mind have this movement motion. It's pretty much like first jhana. That's why there is this pattern. It's the same pattern. There is this motion where your mind expand. It's expand. And the sixth one is like the second one where there is bliss. But this bliss is, the only word I can describe is phenomenal. Right? It's nothing you ever experience. It's nothing the self can contain. It's so big the self can't contain. It either exit out or it surrender. Because that bliss, because you think about it, consciousness now is expanding and it's not stopping, right? The nature of consciousness is boundless, it's infinite. So it keeps expanding. It's like there's no edge to the universe. There's no edge to consciousness. So it's expanding. And the bigger it's expand, the bigger the bliss. So the bliss will just grow and grow and grow and grow, right? And so you just surrender to it. The self just have to surrender, right? And you just collapse, right? You just collapse, right? You just surrender to that phenomenal bliss. And then, so the equivalent, the sixth one is the bliss. It's like the second one. And the third one, the seventh is nothingness, right? It's nothingness. It's not like you stare into the void. Okay, I'm going to give another side note here. Each of these jhana is corresponding to realm, right? There is a real realm with real deities or beings that live in different realms. Now, when there is a sense of self, when you are watching, right? And say, for example, with arupa, and you find yourself up in space, that is called realm, because there is your awareness and your sense of self aware of space, aware of infinity, right? So what basically happened there is you travel to realms, right? To different realms, to different, the realms that corresponding to your state at that time. But jhana is not realm, right? Jhana is your state of mind that's been expanded, or the consciousness, right? So there is no self there. There's no, with arupa, there's no sense of self there, right? Very tiny, because that sense of self can't contain that bliss. Remember, it's ginormous, right? It has to surrender itself. So the seventh is nothingness, and the nothingness is not staring into the void. If you find yourself staring into the void, you are traveling realm. You're not in jhana. Now, nothingness just means the bliss stop, right? And now there's nothing happening. It's like containment. You're in a state of calm and nothing is happening. But it's not. Now I'm going to stay from the arupa jhana, or from the 5th to the 8th. It can all happen in 30 minutes. 5, 6, 7, 8, all in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, all in one session, right? But with Rupa Jhana, it's like first jhana can happen years, right? Before you go to the second one, and it's quite distinct, and and it's you have to finish that before your next one, But arupa is like all in one go. So the seven is nothingness. So the bliss stop and nothing happening, right? The eighth one is really interesting. So the eighth one is called neither perception or feeling, right? So what happened is your perception, right? Your awareness, because awareness is basically perception, because you're aware of something. If you're aware of something, that's mean perception. And the bliss gone, so perception gone, right? At at that arupa state, there's only the consciousness, and those three is still right, is still existing. From the fifth, you're not aware of your body. Your body's still there, right? But you're not aware of it anymore. Uh, Also, the breath, right, is not noticeable. It's not like it stopped. If you find yourself in space and no breath, you're traveling realm and you very distinct. It's like you thought yourself you're dead because you can't feel your body, you can't feel your chest rising up and down, you can't feel all your senses, and then you go, I'm dead, right? So, but there is your sense of self-awareness of space. So basically, you're in Rome, you're not in Arupa Jhana. So the eighth, what happened to the eighth is consciousness doesn't have anything to depend on, right? Because everything depending on something for it to arise. So when feeling and perception ceased, consciousness ceased. But it doesn't just cease immediately, right? It takes time. So, but in reality, what you actually feeling is you feel as though there is this pressure around you, pressing on your awareness, right? Really, really pressure. Like it's like somebody about to put the candle flame out. It's like that, right? It basically, it's like something is pressuring you on your awareness, on your consciousness, and then you out, gone. At that point, whatever position that you're sitting, you're gonna collapse. Your head gonna drop, okay? Because nothing is holding it, right? So, so you might you might look like this, and then your head drop, or your whole body drop, right? So, if you experience this a lot, you get into the state where you sit inclined, right? You can't sit straight anymore. You kind of have to incline because at that point everything collapses. So then you kind of collapse in your bed, on the pillow. um, so that's eight, right? So that's eight. And what's interesting is if you experience this a lot, right? Uh, Now, I'm going to describe another, how to call it, very difficult stage. Because so far, I'm only describing from, from 1 to 8. And I haven't described what happened during your normal life. Okay. Now, from 1 to 4, you can still pretty much normal, right? You can go to work. You're very sharp, actually. 1 to 4 is about sharpen your mind. Your memory is sharp. Everything is good, right? You're happy, you're kindness is very easy now. You don't have to make too much effort to be kind, forgiving, like you're pretty much on the flow. Once a rupa start, and it now once you attain a rupa, or I haven't talked to a person who just experienced arupa in meditation, right? Arupa means once your mind expands, it's expanded. You get up in the morning and it's still expanded, right? So just imagine the implication of that. Imagine your mind is like the sky, and the sky is have this little feet and this little walk on this little leg. Okay, so it's very hard to focus. Right? Imagine there's this ginormous bubble and there's this little leg trying to walk. Right? Also, imagine talking. Right? Talking is quite complicated. It requires you to think what the other person talking makes sense, and then provide a cohesive uh, reply. But once you're in a rupa and your mind is expanded and it remain expanded, you you kind of like have to pull it down, right? It's like, oh, it's like I'm focusing, I'm listening, but then it doesn't want to, right? So there is this yo effect. Right? You pull, you're trying to focus. Focusing means you pull your consciousness down and you're listening and that, but then it pull yourself up again. And then that's it, right? You lost all comprehension. So, driving. Driving is even worse. So your whole function is is down, right? It's very hard to drive. It's hard to go shopping. It's hard to work. It's definitely very dangerous if you're in a job where you operate dangerous machinery. But you know this, right? You know this, and then you have to make accommodation to organize yourself so that you'll be safe for yourself and safe for others, right? Also, at this arupa phase of transformation, your sense of self start to go. Okay, it's kind of like static. It's not constant. In order to maintain this constant awareness of who I am, consciousness is condensed. It's here. But when it's a rupa and consciousness remain big, that sense of self is leaping, right? Meaning all the dharma that you've been trying to have insight is right in your face now, right? The candles, all the candles is so easy to see, and also easy to see what you still have left to go, right? At this point, you would know the difference between consciousness, perception, feeling, thinking. You can see the candles very clearly because it's one moment you look at something and you know, because that first perception of knowing and labeling is perception. The next moment you don't know, so you like no, not no, no, not no, right? So you can tell whether that is perception or not. um and then and then if anybody is know this sutta or the Bahiya, the Bahiya Sutta, where at the end this guy, the Buddha say there is no you in between anywhere or anywhere, at all. So you get into this state where there is no you, right? What does that mean? Means you can be sitting next to your wife or your husband and you wouldn't know who that person is. You wouldn't even know who you are. You wouldn't even know your body. You wouldn't know your hand. So you can't do anything but just sit and stare, right? You can cognize colors and images and sound, but there is that process of going into perception and thinking is not anymore. And so you can tell, like, in order for the sense of self to be maintained, that process have to co-join. Yeah, it has to one leading to the next. But if it doesn't leading to the next, there's no sense of self, right? If there is just cognizing and no perception, you don't know, right? You don't know who you are. Because there's no memory. There's no past leading to the present. So this state of Aruba is very dangerous. Yeah, but and it can last for quite a while. And how long it lasts, I don't know. It's depend on the individual. But every time you sit is amazing, right? You go into this like high, and during the day also you're very high, right? Your consciousness is high, but your feeling is also high. So what else can I say about this state? Okay, so what's happening in terms of the path, right? What's really happening is like imagine that your computer it never turned off, and then you get to this number 8, and then things start to thin out, and your consciousness ceased, right? That ceasing, that's naroda, that cessation is, well, you can call it number 9, right? It's like turning off the computer, right? Shut down, go blank, and then you open your eyes and your computer turn on again, right? And then so every time, every day, because it's very hard. It's like enormous effort to just walk, enormous effort to just talk, right? And it's like, go shopping, yeah, good luck getting the right stuff home, right? It's very hard functioning. So all that effort, you just want to sit, right? You just want to sit and go into that bliss. But every time you sit, the computer shut down again, right? So with all that shutting down, what happened to the computer? It break, right? One day you come to turn it on, they don't want to turn it on anymore, right? It's shut, right? It got no software, no nothing happening, no activity. So at this time, you can call it emptiness, right? So now you realize, who's talking, right? This mouth is moving, but who's talking? Because the computer is blank. So where that sense of self, or that the one that knows or the one that is aware is gone, right? So in that space is just emptiness, just blank, right? It's nothing happening. You can call it non-existence. You can call it, yeah. I wouldn't call it anything, because the moment you call it something, you conceptualize it, and it's not that. But then you go through the stage. It's pretty much like a rupa. You go through stage of adapting and integrating. And then when you go into emptiness, you go through another, months or years of adapting and integrating. And it's very nice, right? all of a sudden the music gone, all the self-chatter gone, the thinking gone, all that critiques and comments in your head's gone, white noise gone, background noise gone. It's very quiet, right? It's so quiet. It's like first 6 months is bliss, right? It's like so quiet. But there's no rupa or arupa jhana anymore, right? Because the moment you sit, you go to cessation. That's all you do. Yeah, you don't travel through jhana anymore because that awareness, that sense of self that keep the body straight is gone. So the more you meditate, it just means things start to cease, shut down, and you just go into cessation all the time. That's it. uh, yeah. So you go through the process of relearning how to function, right? Because everything that you do is totally new, right? The way you solve the problem, right? Before you solve a problem, you think. But now you can't think anymore. That part of yourself, that thing is gone, right? So you solve problem very differently now, right? Also pay attention that the five khandhas is still there, okay? It's not like you don't think. The khandhas, the sankhara, which is thinking and mental formation and all that, is still there. The perception is still there. The feeling is still there. Your karmic tendency is still there. Your personality is still there. Everything's still there. The only difference is that awareness where the one I'm aware, the observer, the knower is gone. Okay. And in that space is emptiness, right? So there is a clear, distinct, you can call it space in your mind where it's empty that you can go into for sanctuary, where you can actually not can, but you have to go regularly in to revise yourself, to refresh. Because before you can go for days, not for days, but you can go for a long time working without resting, but you can't do that anymore. You have to regularly tap into this non-existent space. Well, what else can I say? Yeah, for a person looking in, it's very hard to understand. It's very, very hard to understand because you can't see, right? You really can't see whether this person finish or not, or who have this emptiness or not, or their sense of self is gone or not. It's very hard to say. It's very hard to know because they can behave quite ordinary. They can behave pretty much the same like before, right? It's just a few things change. Number one, you don't get sick much anymore. Yeah, all the sickness, the cold, flu that you used to feel or you used to get, you don't get anymore. You don't need to sleep much anymore because this emptiness space is like you tap into it for half an hour and it's like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, right? So you don't sleep much anymore. Definitely way happier, definitely way more present. Um, there's not much fear, right? So you ended up doing a lot of things that you don't otherwise do because there's just the present. For fear to happen, there need to be the past, right? So you're not living in the past much. Uh, um, okay. How are we going for time? Wow. I'm talking for like an hour. I need questions.
You need questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank first of all, thank you very much for your elaboration on that topic. Um, I think for all the Buddhists who have heard about that meditative absorptions, that it's the juiciest part because if you think about meditation and Buddhists and you think about why are they sitting there for such a long time? Like there's no attractive things, there's like no sense pleasures, there's nothing. So why would they do that, right? So that would for me be one of the first questions back then when I got into Buddhism. Like what makes these people sit there? And once I got to Ajahn Brahm's monastery, I found out later why, right? And when I got to this, all these precepts, I'm like, yeah, not killing, not lying, no stealing, no sexual misconduct. I understand all that. And then it comes to the fact that no intoxication, like, okay, back then I was like, okay. And then you got all this entertainment which is not there. Music, dancing, playing. And like, what's the point? What's all that about? And why about people doing that for thousands of years? And and then I heard Ajahn Brahm saying, about all this nimittas and jhanas. And this is where, once you had your mind in that place where it do the vitaka and vichara, and then it could stay for a little bit longer, then you actually the first time see and feel what that actually means if one meditates and what that does to the mind afterwards. And to many things what you say, um I get the feeling that I mean it makes me curious and it makes me want to have it, right? But it's also a thing where I think words cannot really reach. Although you explained it very nicely, and I can, sort of tune into that modes, and I find it really, is a state where it's beyond the conditioning, right? Because all the conditioning dropping away. Is at least how I understood it. So now coming to the question, um, for me, the feeling is so it's really hard to make that happen. Like you've been talking about the 10 to 20 years where there's still the meditator have to put lots of work in. It's not really like pleasure or like super peace. It's like really tough work, and then it's so I'm meditating now more or less like for I don't know with lots of gaps 10 years, right? And I had my spikes and then doing some retreats and then it goes up and down. But I had one jhanic experience which was back then when I started meditating at Ajahn Brahm's place where I met you, you know. So for me it's really hard to do that, right? And to set the conducive so living in the markets in the samsara, having to work, having to function, having to play a role, and you basically sucked out of energy at the end of the day. So for me it's very hard to, although it would be amazing to have that because then it gets you going better, as you say, but for me it's really hard to set this the ground for practice. Mm, so my question would be, um, what could you tell us? What can we do to sort of fertilize the ground, or like to yeah, what can we do to make to initiate that state? Yeah, as meditation is quite dry and very taking lots of effort at the moment for me. That would be my question.
Okay. So jhana is the heart. Jhana is feelings. So so you look at the way you live, right? And the way we think and the way we see and view people in life, and you question, does this support my heart? Because jhana is heart, jhana is joy, jhana is happiness, is that quality and that state of mind. So like during the day, just question, does this support my heart? So if we find ourselves hard to forgive, or if we find ourselves criticize and judge, then our counter thought is, does this support my heart? Because we have to do things that support the state that we want to enter, right? uh, um, our state of mind is not just the session that we are in. Our state of mind is a continuous. It's what we're doing during the day set the ground for how what state we're going to enter when we sit. So how we are during the day, we can already predict how we're going to be when we sit, because we can't just switch the switch and say, I'm sitting now, I want a different state of mind. Yeah. So our action, our speech, our thoughts need to support the quality that we want to be in. Does that help?
Yes, it does help. Um, it's it does help for clarification reasons. It's just so you need to have as a basic the sati, right? The mindfulness. So if is not there, then and it rises and falls with sati. So if sati is there, then you can do that. But like if you are so absorbed in your daily life and then you have to stick, say, around people which are not conducive to your, you know, thinking. So for me, that's an issue because I feel like once I got home, I feel tainted, right, and very full of energy. And first of all, I have to cleanse myself in order to then start to build up the energy, the spiritual energy. That's really tough to do. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely. Um, but I wouldn't, how I view it, it's just a matter of just switching your perception, just shift it a little bit and say that you're actually serving, because that is really what's happening, right? So we meditate, we clean ourselves, we empty that cup a little bit. And when we empty that cup and we go to school, we go to work, and it fills in with other people, right? In that sense, when we feel in, the person feel a little bit better. So in that sense, that's the unsung hero, we serve. We serve with um, not being recognized, but we're serving, right? So, so instead of viewing it as we've been dumped, we've taken on people dense energy, and it's very hard. And we just shift that perception and say, I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve. So with that mindset, there is less resistance, there is more flow, more relaxation, less disturbance in the mind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you for clarification.
David?
Yeah, I had a question, sort of what you and I were discussing before the recording started. Oftentimes, I can get into a state that is very pleasant, very comfortable, happy. And then, a thought will arise like, is this it? Is this jhana? I recognize it as doubt. Like, this is doubt. This is a hindrance. Let's toss it out. Or last time it was a little bit better. It was a little bit more intense. Okay, I recognize that this is aversion. I gotta toss this out. Now, my question is this like, for example, and the state that I'm thinking of right now, it feels blissful in the body. The state of mind isn't particularly uplifted. I'd say it'd be like rather equanimous. So I feel like this is like third jhana-esque. However, I'm still dealing with hindrances. Now, they don't. So the question is like, okay, is this third jhana, or because the hindrances, I'm like dropping out of it, but then as soon as the hindrance is gone, I'm back in third jhana. It's so yeah, this is a rather technical question, I guess, but I'd like to hear your thoughts and hope it will abate some doubts that I experience while sitting.
Okay. So remember, one of the quality of jhana is the direct attention and sustain, right? So yes, you can be in it for 5 seconds and be out of it. But while in that 5 seconds, you can see that there's no hindrance, there's no negative mind state. There is direct attention, sustained attention, and joy or happiness or calmness, right? And in that 5 seconds, very brief, there is all these jhana factors. Then you're in that 5 seconds, you're in jhana. But then the hindrances arises. So the more you're in, the more just be more into it. And also remember the ability to absorb in it. So kind of lose that watcher, lose that observer, and dwell into that feeling more and more and more, right? So what you're doing is, I who say that we have to be in it for an hour or 2 hours without hindrance, and that's classified or qualify as jhana? Who say that? All right, because there's no sutta that give a time span that you have to be in a certain amount of time to qualify as jhana. You can be in it for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Also, it's okay to be in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. But the good thing is you recognize this is doubt, this is restlessness, this is this and this. But I wouldn't go to the second commentary to say, I need to get rid of it, right? Just, okay, I see it, I know it, and that's gone. The moment you know it, it's already gone. Because you can't know it and still be in it. Because the moment you recognize it, it's already gone. And then just be with what is present instead of saying, I want it, I want that state that was previous, just previous, back, right? Because that's one thing, right? And also comparing, because each present moment is so different. And it can take you by surprises if you not in control. You know what I mean? It can be so surprising. For example, you might just have 5 minutes between some activity and boom, it's there and it's so strong, right? Yeah, I say just enjoy yourself with whatever that is present, and learn this ability to absorb. And also try 2 things, like absorbs, where you lose this observer and go into this feeling, or spread it out, like it's like metta, but the quality of jhana, right? So this feeling, this beautiful feeling, just spread it out with your intention and your awareness and your consciousness, send it to all beings in the universe, right? So in a sense, you do 2 things. You're doing metta, but also you practicing for arupa. You're reaching your consciousness out unlimited. Just let it expand, wishing that quality to all beings in how many multiverse, just let it go. So do 2 things. Experiment and see which one worked for you. And also, I wouldn't put too important in, like, is this it or not, right? As long as you can see the ceasing and the arising. For example, this happiness cease, and then I'm getting a calmer happiness, right? Sometimes that is the progression of jhana. The first one is so raw, so strong. The next one is a little bit calmer, and the next one a little bit calmer. But because we prefer the strong one, so we want to go backwards. But actually, the mind is progressing because
my experience of what I consider first jhana, my body shakes a lot, and it's just like way too disruptive. Now what I consider in my mind to be third jhana, I really like, where my body feels really good, and what I consider fourth jhana, at first I was like, how it feels like sometimes the when the pleasure in the body goes away, sometimes it doesn't, it's like, how is this better? But then sometimes when the awareness becomes very bright and very like thick, then it's like, oh, like now I see why this is better. But um it doesn't always become that way. Sometimes it like stays like I guess dullish, like not not so impressive. And then yeah, that and when it's like that, then it's like, oh well, I much prefer sukha than this than nothing. But when the awareness is like bright and like um obvious,
Yeah,
then then it's better than sukha. I see that.
yeah, yeah. So we have three modes of feelings, right? The pleasant, the unpleasant, and the neutral. So fourth jhana is neither the pleasant, so it's more neutral. But be careful with neutral is that nothing is happening. So we like you say, you prefer something happening. So if we are not conscious of the neutral, then it can revert to boredom. The hindering boredom can arise. And see, if we are not conscious of the neutral feeling, then we can label that neutral feeling as boredom. And then so, you know, with all that association that come with the label boring, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. This is all about learning. It's all about, getting to know yourself. Um,
Yeah, I don't think my experience like when I'm in a neutral state is uh boredom. It just it's uh I think it's just when it's just like not so bright that it's like um I guess it doesn't feel particularly jhanic. It just yeah, I guess it feels like a very just average, mundane sort of state.
yeah, yeah. So then you kind of see that you have preferences, taught preferences imposed on the present moment, isn't it? Because
Mhm.
uh, then you thought of somebody labeling or describing, and then you thought, oh, this is not Johnny. This, right? So it's like I prefer the other person description.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it has to do with I think it has to do with like the brightness and like the energy of the mind. Like sometimes the mind can feel very powerful, like just big and bright and then sometimes it feels not like that. And then yeah, I do have a preference. I want it to feel I want the mind to feel big and bright and
Yeah,
powerful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, have a look, like what were your state of mind that was before when it was dull? Like what was the condition that lead to the dullness, and what was the condition that lead to this brightness? And the brightness of the mind is the light. So light is not just the light we see, but the light is also the brightness of the mind.
hmm hmm Yeah. Uh,
So so also make this mind go to work. For example, do you have a problem or a reflection or an insight that you're working on, right? So think about what sort of obstacle or breakthrough that you want, and just look at this problem from all these conditions, from all the angles, right? And then just drop it. But also remind yourself, right, when you're in this state, and then you give the insight will arise in this state, because you have a mind where it's bright, and it got the muscle, it's strong, and it's happy, and so it can look to the depths of the water. So this is when you give it the problem to solve. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
So this is, what sort of breakthrough do you want? You know, because in the sutras, there's three kind that they call it awareness release, right? And how you describe your ending, right, is depend on which you're working from, right? For me, I focus on the self, right? From other people, they focus on dukkha. Other person that they focus on impermanence. So which direction are you working from? This is what you
I
got.
tend to
Yeah,
lean towards anatta, I think.
yeah,
Is where my mind tends to go. Yeah.
yeah. So then when, if you work from anatta, then you yeah, you see all the nuance of what a self is, right? And how, and your definition of self will be refined more and more and more. It's definitely got nothing to do with ego, right? um
Mm-hmm,
uh and then when that's gone, then you know you're finished.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had experiences where it feels like where like the mind is very, bright and expansive, and then you can like notice maybe for like, I don't know, like 5 or 10 seconds, and it feels like you're doing things, but it's not self. And then it switches, and then it feels like you are self. But then you also recognize that the feeling that when it feels like not self and when it feels like self, they're both not self also. Um, you know, this is so yeah, I'm not sure why I'm bringing this up, but this is an experience that I've I've experienced before, and what's coming to mind now. I imagine you're familiar with Mahasi's Progress of Insight and the stages, the
uh
sixteen
I've heard of
stages.
it, but I'm not familiar.
You're not too familiar. Yeah. All right. Well, never mind then. Um, but um, what I was going to say was, sometimes I feel like my experience correlates to this map. But um, I also feel sometimes like I need to toss that map away and just like, just stick with what's happening. So
Yeah, my
yeah.
okay, my indication for everybody is this. As long as you know, then you still got work to do. You're
Yeah,
not
no, I know I
finished.
still have work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
So I'm not too sure about, I'm not very knowledgeable about Mahasi. So I can't really comment. But definitely when you finish, you know you finish, even
Mm-hmm.
though there's no you that know you're finished.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
you'll know
Yeah.
when the cessation is there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't somebody say, how can you know you finish? Well, if there's somebody still asking, then obviously you haven't finished,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Thank you for attending and for your time. um I'll stop the recording, and then I'll talk about the property. Okay, so where's the recording? In post in